Hello, how's it going? So today I'm going to be talking about Vitex, known as Chaste Tree. It's a female reproductive hormone. It's wonderful at balancing the hormones. But here's the thing, I've been getting a lot of questions about people unsure about it. Also people having negative reactions to Vitex Chaste Tree. I'm going to call it Vitex, it's a little bit easier to say. But you might know it as Chaste Tree. It's a beautiful herb. So I'm going to dive right in, and this is going to be a real quick one today for you. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Naomi Judge. I'm a Naturopath and Clinical Nutritionist, and I help women connect the dots between their health, happiness and hormones. And today we're talking about Vitex. Vitex is used, and it's been studied a lot, for premenstrual syndrome. Premenstrual syndrome is that 2 weeks leading up to your period, where you might experience really nasty symptoms: breast tenderness, bloating, depression, anger, agitation, sore painful breast lumps, extreme fatigue, lots of different symptoms. And a lot of women do suffer in that 2 weeks leading up till their period. Then they might get their period and have heavy painful periods. They might have a difficult ovulation, but essentially it's used as sort of a premenstrual syndrome remedy. It's used either in the follicular phase. So the follicular phase is that first couple of weeks of your cycle. Sometimes it's used every day depending what's going on, and it can be used for fertility. So essentially what's happening with your hormones when you're having that difficult luteal phase is that your body doesn't have enough progesterone, doesn't have enough luteinizing hormone to produce a nice corpus luteum, to produce a really great ovulation. So a lot of women struggle. It's the corpus luteum that produces that progesterone, and progesterone is a beautiful calming hormone. It supports dopamine, it's analgesic, anoxylytic, so it's nice and anti-anxiety. So it's got all these beautiful things, and I can use it on clients and they feel wonderful. I always say to my clients, you'll know straight away, you'll literally know within a week or two whether it's a yay or a nay. If you use it and it worsens symptoms, it's a nay. If you use it and suddenly 2 weeks later you feel calm and wonderful, then it's the right thing for you. Now, it's one of those herbs that shouldn't be overused. You don't want to be using it longer than 3 months. If you do have to use it longer than 3 months, and you want to have a gap in between. But how to know if it's right for you and how to know if it's not right for you? This is difficult because it can exacerbate symptoms. So let's peel it back and see exactly what it does. So Vitex, what it does is it can modulate follicle stimulating hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone can sometimes be too low. In infertility, it can be too high, menopause too high, problems with your follicular phase too out of balance. So it can remedy that. It can cause that to get nice and balanced. So if you're in menopause and you've got really high follicle stimulating hormone, it has been shown to work. If you're not having a period, amenorrhea, you're having very light periods and you've got super high follicle stimulating hormone, it can work also. It has also been shown to act on the pituitary to support luteinizing hormone. Now, luteinizing hormone helps to support your corpus luteum. Luteinizing hormone is the one that peaks up mid-cycle. You get maybe some egg white discharge to show you're ovulating. Your cervix might come a little bit lower to show that you're ovulating. You might get much softer inside. You might also get some tender breasts. You might also get a temperature spike as well, the luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone peaks, the egg releases, then you get the corpus luteum, and it's that produces the progesterone. So Vitex can support your corpus luteum and your luteinizing hormone to then support your progesterone. So it works really nicely for that. Now, what Vitex also does is it suppresses prolactin. So it's very good for women with hyperprolactinemia. So that's high prolactin. So it's good for you if you have breast lumps. You may have discharge coming from your nipples. You may have very sore or swollen breasts, or you've had a blood test come back with high prolactin. Vitex can actually be very therapeutic for that. Should not be used during pregnancy, and it should not be used when you're breastfeeding because it can suppress prolactin. It might stop your breastfeeding. So if you want to continue breastfeeding, don't use it. Those are the cases where it can work really well. Now, this is where it starts to get a little little bit dodgy. This is where it starts to depend on what your hormones are doing. For example, Vitex has been shown to modulate testosterone, bring it down. This is good, but the only problem is it can also raise your testosterone if you have hyperinsulinemia. So if you have high blood sugar and you have high testosterone and you take Vitex to bring up your progesterone, there is a small chance it will increase your testosterone as well. So if you know you've got very elevated testosterone and you know you've got low progesterone and you want to use Vitex, only use it for a very short period of time. And if you ever get symptoms of high testosterone, then you need to stop it. I find with my clients with high testosterone, where they've got longer cycles, so their menstrual cycle is about 38, 40, 45 days, Vitex can help being used for about 2 to 3 months. After about 2 months, it brings the cycle back down to 28 days. So it works very well there. It also works very well when there is super low progesterone, very low testosterone, and very low cortisol, very low catecholamines. This is where Vitex works. It works to stimulate the pituitary. When all the hormones are low, it just buffers them and kind of brings them up. So it works really nicely then. So low cortisol, you're very fatigued. You may have a little bit of anxiety as well. You feel a little bit on edge. Maybe you're not sleeping properly. So low cortisol, low testosterone, and low progesterone, it works really well in that kind of environment of hormones. It works very, very well for very long, drawn-out menstrual cycle, and it can work very well for estrogenic conditions such as endometriosis. So if you've got very heavy, painful periods, clotting, blood clots, heavy painful breasts, it can work for that as well. Now, it can be a little bit dodgy with people that are very anxious and have very high catecholamines. So for one, it can be it can increase your dopamine. So if you've got low dopamine, you suffer depression, low moods, it can work quite nicely. But if you've got bipolar, schizophrenia, or you're on any drugs to support these conditions, it can interfere. You might have found that you took Vitex and it made you go crazy. It made you get more anxious. It made you get more angry. It made you get more agitated. And this is because it is acting on the dopamine receptors. So if you know you've got any issues with your dopamine receptors, or you're more angry, agitated, anxious, you've got all of those, there is a chance it can upregulate that. And if you have schizophrenia or you've got bipolar, you need to be really careful with it because it does act on those receptors, so it can worsen your symptoms. So if you've taken it and it's made you angry, agitated, and it's worsened your symptoms, you need to be careful there. The same goes if you've got high adrenaline or you've got high cortisol. If you've got high adrenaline and high cortisol, there is a chance that Vitex will raise these hormones. So as I said, if they're really low, Vitex can be very good herb. But if they're high, there is this real chance that it will put your adrenaline up, it will put your cortisol up, and it will leave you feeling anxious and maybe aggressive, maybe overwhelmed, or maybe on edge. So you do need to be careful there. That is a warning with Vitex. It can put your cortisol and it can put your adrenaline up. So it can work at balancing your follicle stimulating hormone, so it's good in menopause. It can bring your luteinizing hormone up and your progesterone up. So it's really good to support fertility, to support ovulation, to support premenstrual syndrome. It's very good in conditions where you've got a lot of water retention, sore swollen breasts, and breast lumps. First of all, try using it in your follicular phase, every day in your follicular phase. If you want to use it every day in your cycle, because you find that works, try and have a break and try and not use it longer than 3 months. If you find that if you're on any antidepressants or you're bipolar or schizophrenic, or you've got issues with elevated dopamine, then don't use Vitex. It can make situations worse. If you find that you do have low luteinizing hormone or low progesterone, but Vitex makes you feel worse, it exacerbates symptoms and it doesn't work for you, it makes you feel agitated and angry, look to something else to support your corpus luteum and your menstrual cycle. So you could use 300 milligrams of ubiquinol, you could use L-acetylcarnitine, You could try iodine to support the thyroid, to support your B6. You could also B6 thyroid to support your fertility. You could also use B6 P5P to support hormones in your corpus luteum. Now P5P, which is B6, will also support symptoms of low progesterone like water retention. I just wanted to make sure that I had mentioned everything, so just to be careful. So those are the areas that it will help in. And another thing, it will help with your metabolism. So if you've got a very low thyroid, Vitex will support your progesterone levels to increase your metabolic rate. So if I found with my clients with low thyroid, it's actually been good to use Vitex for about 2 to 3 months to actually regulate their thyroid function. But think of conditions where you're tired, maybe a little bit of anxiety, your periods are elongated or your periods are very heavy, you've got sore swollen breasts. Those are where it's to be used. If you're angry, agitated, lots of testosterone dominant conditions like hirsutism and conditions like that, then it might not work with testosterone. On that note, I did want to mention another symptom of high prolactin. High prolactin can actually cause excess hair growth, hirsutism on the face, on your nipples, on your chest, on your stomach. If it is due to high prolactin, then Vitex in that case may work. So I hope that kind of helped to uncover that, situations to use it and situations to beware. And if you don't want to use it because it does react, use things like ubiquinol, Chaste Tree, L-acetylcarnitine and B6. Those all help with your hormone balance, and they support luteinizing hormone and support progesterone. So just a quick recap. It can stabilize FSH, so it's great, can be used in menopause or high or low FSH. It can be used to buffer luteinizing hormone, so it's great for luteal phase defects. It's great if you notice you're not ovulating, if you're not getting that temperature spike, if you're not getting the discharge, if you're not getting the change in cervix, you're not getting the 2 weeks of your luteal phase, maybe it's too short, maybe it's too long. If you're getting very, very heavy, painful periods, and it's definitely indicated with sore, swollen breasts and breast lumps, and it's also indicated when your menstrual cycle is very long, drawn out, 30, 40, 50 days even, it can be used there. But be careful with high cortisol, be careful with high adrenaline, be very careful with high testosterone. In those cases it can exacerbate. And if you have any issues with agitation, anger and anxiety and dopamine issues, or you're on bipolar medication, schizophrenic medication, then please be careful and refrain from using it because it can exacerbate those conditions. So I hope that helped you figure out if it's right for you. But it's definitely a wonderful herb, but one to be careful of. Use it sparingly, have a break from using it, and just monitor your symptoms. If you feel negative after a week or 2 of using it, then just stop using it. So I hope that helped, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.